Hey everyone, just want to stop by real quick for this podcast star sensation. Like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to follow me on all my social medias at John D. Klauser, literally the same name as the name that you subscribe to on this YouTube channel. So enjoy this clip, and I'll see you guys on the other side. It's hot. It's hot in the studio.
Hey everybody, empty nesters up here in Cape Cod, and we are about to do a Dunkin' review because that's what you do when you're, swishing it up.
We're swishing it up and having an all-time ball
without kids.
Empty nester, we're learning all about everything. So let's decide. What did you get, Dad?
Delicious medium ice milk shug.
Oh, and the shugs, how many?
4.
All right, and I got my fave unsweetened iced tea. No lemon because they don't have lemon at Dunkin', but let me taste.
Tasty.
Delicious.
Tasty.
Absolutely delicious. So cheers to empty nest.
Cheers.
We miss you, kids.
Nah, not really.
No.
Welcome to the John Show with your host, John Doogie Klauser.
All right. What is going on, everyone? How are you? We are here on a new episode of the Juan Solo Show with your host, me, Juan D. Klauser. So funny is I was able to hear, oh, something happened. This is like probably the most professional thing ever. Most professional thing ever. Okay, there we go. Hey, what's going on? How are you? What's up? You'd think I would have figured all that stuff out before the podcast even started. So we are here on a new episode of the Juan Solo Show with your host, me, Juan D. Klauser, John D. Klauser, whichever one you prefer. Episode 135. Oh, man, we are doing it. We are doing it. It is super hot in this studio, so I haven't been here in a couple of days. So there's been no air. I got in here about maybe like an hour ago, set up lights, and then it just made it hotter. It's weird because like the Midwest has been going through like a hot spell this last couple of days. It's been like 100. Yesterday was 100 degrees. Today was 103. The day before that was 99. And I think tomorrow's supposed to be the last day of the heat wave, which is so weird because like we're almost at the end of September. We're almost October. Why is it almost 100 degrees? Some people would say it's global warming. Some people would say it is, it's simply just what is it called? What do they call it? It's a cycle that the world, atmosphere just does every like 100 some odd years or every some odd thousands of years. Not hundreds, I think it's like thousands of years. Clearly, because I have no clue. I'm the last person to be ever talking about this, but it is interesting because there's no way that humans, as many as us we are, and all the bullshit that we do, good, bad, indifferent, whatever, things that we produce, animals that we've bred to do stuff for us, or animals that we've realized that we can have them do certain things for us. There's no way that we're not doing some indentation into the world. It's impossible to think that we're not. Like, it's so funny. One of the things I do think is really weird is that like we haven't been back to the moon since when we first went there, and which then I can understand why I understand how people can think that. Well, we're getting real deep into a conspiracy theory real quick before this podcast even starts, but we can really understand, at least I can, how people can believe that we were just doing that, we were just faking that whole thing just to basically bankrupt Russia, which makes sense. It's not that it doesn't make sense. There's some other conspiracy theories that makes absolutely no sense, but that one actually makes that one. I'm like, okay, I can understand that one. And actually, that's kind of interesting. Why haven't we been back to the moon? Let me Google this. I was Googling Joe Paterno when he pooped his pants. Did you guys ever watch that game? It's a great game. Like it was them versus Ohio State, I believe, and Joe Paterno was running. He had, they were about to punt. Penn State was, and you see him like running out, like he has to run past like the end zone to go into the locker room, and he shit his pants. So I guess he had the flu, and but so let's Google. You think when I was talking during that time, you think I would have Googled that? Why haven't we gone back to the moon. But in 1970, the future Apollo missions were canceled. Apollo 7 became the last manned mission to the moon for amount of time. The main reason was for money. Oh, okay. It's just money. I mean, I'm sure it's not the most cheapest thing in the world to do to go take people up in the fucking space. You know, it's fucking billions of dollars, probably hundreds of millions. Like, let's Google that. How much to send someone to space? About $50 million. All right. So times that by you get to take a team up there. I'm assuming I only saw $50 million, and then I was like, all right, we're gonna go with that. I just saw a bunch of words, and that was then the I saw a bunch of words. I'm like, okay, that's the first thing that goes to. I'm like, we'll just do that, and I didn't do any more research on it at all. It could have easily been like how much would it cost someone like me to do that, or a normal person to do it versus someone who's an astronaut. But yeah, there's a thing. I had someone send me this video the other day. It's like, you need to open your eyes, John. Open up, man. Like, they believe that the Earth's flat, and I wish I could believe it. I wish I could, but I just can't. I'm like, there's just too many things, There's, light years. That's the thing. There's, the fact that you have to calculate when you're sniping or shooting for the curvature. There's just certain things that you believe that you're like, but I just don't think the Earth can be flat. I just don't believe. But they think that Antarctica is the ice wall, and past the ice wall is a small group of islands that the 1% own, and that's what controls the whole world. And they control the environment, the economy, all that stuff. It's just like, I just don't see it. Just don't see it. It seems a little too hard to believe. It's something like that. Like, I wish it was something that easy. I wish it was that easy. But things like humans, we're too dumb, and we're unable to come together and be able to be on one page at one time. It's just not possible. It's just not impossible. Kind of goes back to the thing. I don't understand how Americans. I can understand English people. That's it. The English people, the people that they're from London, they're from, all those other cities in England. Maybe Wales can too. I don't know what the Wales and the whole English thing. I don't know what their relationship is because I'm not white, but they can be all upset about the Queen's death because I understand. That's their culture. I get it. I get that. But there's no reason for anybody else to be involved or want to be involved or want to watch that shit, that horse shit. It's like, dude, she did nothing but colonize. Her country did nothing but colonize a bunch of people and horribly disfigure, their culture, their language, just the people in general. Literally made another group of people from a group of people. It's just a lot of stuff. So I just don't see why anyone would want to watch that or be like, yeah, I'm sad that person's down. Whatever. I'm like, all right. Look up the Nigerian, what England did to Nigeria. I think 150,000 Nigerians died. It's kind of insane. But that's one of those things. It also goes into the thing right now because it's Latino History Month. Woohoo! I don't understand how we started at the midway. It started midway through a month, and you know what? Let's Google this too. We're gonna have to Google this now. Why does Hispanic start on the 15th? Why does Hispanic Heritage Month begin on September 15th? Celebrates through the 15th through October 15th. Celebrate the start midway point. So it marks the independent avenue of 5 countries. Oh, it's just because. Okay, that's what I thought. But it's because the first day of it is September 15th, and that's actually that's the Independence Day of Honduras and like a bunch of Central American countries. So like that's why they started on the 15th, but I get it, but it'd be nice if it started on the beginning of a month and just kind of just went through the whole month. It's just a lot easier, and then you can just celebrate on the 15th because that 15th is right in the middle of that month. But I guess because it celebrates all of the countries that got their independence that are Latino or Spanish-speaking countries. But what's so funny is that right now, because it is the Hispanic Heritage Month. You hear all these commercials. You see all these commercials of like pro-Latino people. You see it, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, I'm like, I don't understand why they're doing this because it's so see-through. It's way more see-through than they do with when they do it to other countries or do other people. Because it's like, like they just tolerate us. Like, why do people just tolerate Latino people just because we are the modern day slaves? That's what we are. We will work for less money because that's the whole thing. Like, you can get Hispanic, you get a Mexican who, at Home Depot, and they'll do the same work, but wait, twice as much work for less than or half the money. And it's like, why would you want to brag about that? Like, why would you want to have that be a reason? Like, why can't you just pay someone? Like, if it costs $150, like, why don't you just pay $150 to a guy? Then I guess what the Hispanic people are gonna do. But I'm like, it's just like, good fucking Jesus, that you people brag about that as like that's one of the reasons why like, you can get good work for cheap. It just comes off really fucking racist and it's weird. And it's like, I don't understand why they're doing all these commercials because I get it, Heritage Month, whatever. But it's like, oh my God, like you guys do not show any interest in our culture at all throughout the rest of the fucking year at all. There's no hint of it at all. Every once in a while, Disney or Pixar will try to fucking make like a movie about Latino culture. And I'm like, okay, good for you. You tried. You did good. But everyone else, you're just like, what in the fuck? Like, what? Like, some oil company, like, what are you talking about? Like Latino people, like, just stick to oil. Just talk about oil. Like, no one needs to talk about. There's no needs to be race involved in cars. But the one thing I will admit, and this is coming from a Hispanic person, I trust white people with working on cars than I do over anyone else. I don't know. NASCAR. That's my thing. It's like, well, white people made NASCAR. That means like, and they did that literally just so they could drink booze. They made cars faster, just so they could drink booze. And to get away from cops. I'm like, that makes, like, I'm going to go with them. I'm just going to go with those people when it comes to working on cars. If I don't have, if I had a bunch of Ferrari people next door, I'd go to them. But, I don't have any of them. But I know a bunch of fucking country boys who know how to work on trucks and work on cars. I'll just go to them. Just makes it, I don't know. I don't, you know what? This is what happens when I do podcasts alone. It's just a ramble. It's just a fucking ramble. It's like that, and then I have hardly anything written down. What else do I have written down for this week? Oh, another thing that I realized. Have you ever noticed that America is the only country that puts like cold water into their beverages to make their beverage cold? Isn't that weird? Isn't that a weird thing? Because like you go to any other country, like no one else does that. No one else puts like ice in their thing. Everyone just kind of drinks their stuff like room temperature. It's just normal. It's actually kind of better. I think it's better for your body, but it is an odd thing. An odd thing. So yeah, I'm here. Have you ever hit like a wall, like 15 minutes into a 30-minute podcast? That was me right here. It is what it is, though. So yeah, like I don't know. I'm still on the broken chair. If you can't tell, like it's kind of. I have a feeling that I'm gonna be sitting on this doing a podcast, and the whole thing's gonna collapse. I guarantee it. But yeah, so let's what else? Oh, I forgot. A couple weeks ago, we were talking. I was talking about how I was having like a trippy experience, and when I'm on my trippy experience, I always see Pili, which is the I said Honduran goddess. It's a Hawaiian goddess. Just wanted to admit that. No one said anything, but I guarantee, just in case if I ever do get famous and people go back in the archives and they research shit and they look at stuff and they're like, "Well, he said it was a Honduran goddess instead of a Hawaiian goddess." I want to make the correction now. She's the she's the Hawaiian goddess of volcanoes. It's like there's no fucking volcanoes in Honduras. Like that should have been your fucking first thing. Like maybe he's like not doing the right country. Like maybe this is not the right thing. But this, I just wanted to make that correction because God forbid people feel like mistakes. God forbid a guy does a podcast by himself and talks for 30 minutes by himself. And it's so hot in this damn fucking room right now. It's like, But yeah, okay, so that was the one thing I wanted to, what else? What else do I have? People, dear people, stop asking people to put input on, oh, no, I already talked about that. I love how, I'm like, oh yeah, then I'll say that, then I'll just, put my phone down. Hawaii leads school. Oh yeah, Hawaii. Missouri. Missouri starting to in Cass County, allowing, what is it called when you can hit a kid with a belt and shit at school? Corporal punishment. Such a weird way of. It's a weird word. Weird wording. I guess we can just go into things. What are some things that I Googled this week? The Joe Paterna thing. That was absolutely disgusting. So I am starting the TV show. I'm starting is Dinosaurs. If you have Disney Plus, it's on that. So I watched this little mini doc about it, talking about how when it came out, it was supposed to be it was supposed to be a play on every 90s comedy, family comedy or family structure when it came to a sitcom, family sitcom, which you need a mom, dad, a son, a daughter, and then a next door neighbor kind of thing. That's kind of the whole thing. That was kind of and so most of the time it's usually about the husband's life and the kids are in it. The kid, one of the kids is really smart, the other kid's kind of a dork or a burnout or a slut. That's kind of what you use. I mean, you use them as a gross out king, because usually that's how it works. And because whenever if you look at it Married with Children, the girl Kelly, she's looked at as a slut, but she's supposed to be your gross out king. It's just supposed to be funny. It's your comic relief to cleanse the palate, to be able to go back to your main story. She's usually her stories are usually the C story. So there's only you get introduced into it maybe very into Act 1. There's a little bit of it maybe at the beginning of Act 2. You don't see anything of it, and then her story gets resolved in the very end of Act 3. Usually how it occurs. While in between there, story A, then story B is being played out. But that's usually that's very rare that you want to do something like that, because it's so many jumping parts. But you do it every once in a while just because it's in a sitcom way, because it's an easy way of, what do they call it? Of learning characters without having to put too much emphasis on you burning up an episode on a half-made character or a half-baked character that you're never gonna really develop. Kind of in what show would it be? Another sitcom show with family, Modern Family. How the oldest daughter, how she's basically her character never develops the entire episode. If you really think about it, all her whole thing is just. Her whole thing was kind of cute with she dates a lot of different guys, and she's kind of quirky and she's kind of kind of ditzy. and kind of like like that the bougie kind of California girl thing, and it was kind of cute the first like when they're young, but then the character develops in like season 5 and 6, and you're like, okay, well, is anything else going to happen with this character? And most of the time it usually never does, and so you just use him as a gross out king or a gross out queen, whatever you want to use it as. But I want to say the term got really popular with what movie? Animal House, when George Belushi, he was a gross out king, and you just use it as a palate cleanser, like I said. But yeah, I think it's fun. It's so much fun when you start breaking down like a story and you understand like story structure, or if you understand like there's only 7 original stories, and so man versus himself, man versus nature, man versus man versus man, man versus nature, man versus self. Those are like three of the things. Call of Duty, which is basically like Lion King. So your main character is you show him, or like the character gets shown in like a highlight, like it's supposed to be like a prince, or like somebody who's going to be the next one up in the ruler, becoming like the ruler of like an area or like a city or whatever. A pride, and something happens, and that character gets shunned from society, and so it has to go off and like become its own character, and then like it deals with like something happens, like in Lion King, Scar takes over because Mufasa died, and so the pride is dying, everyone's hungry because like no one's like there's nothing being run, it's not being run correctly. And so what that does, it causes Simba to go back to the pride and fight Scar, which leads into Act 3. But once you like learn things like that, it's like oh, it makes it so much easier to like tell a story, because like you can at least have like a structure to it. I love how I'm telling myself this now, and I'm writing this story right now, and I'm like, I have no fucking clue where I'm going with it. I'm honestly, so I wrote the main street, right? So from the highway to the end of like the last street in the town, like I've written all of it. I've written the body, and I'm going back and I'm just kind of adding. So I'm like, I'll read a sentence, and it kind of will spark. My goal is like one sentence will get me like one of the sentences I've already written will spawn 4 more sentences. That's the thing. But if I can do that to like 4 or 5 times within like a paragraph, it can really fluff out the paragraph. Then I'll go back and I'll do another paragraph, and I'll go back and I'll do another thing. And so then what I do is like then I'll finish the paragraph, finish the rest of the story, go back to that paragraph, and I'll run it through to make sure like all the correction, like the grammar correction is correct, and then I'll just like work back on it. But it's like I love how I'm telling you now this, and I'm like, why don't I just do that? Why won't you just follow that kind of thing? Because I have no idea where I want the story to go. I just feel like I'm just writing a bunch of shit just to write it down. It's like it's literally 5,000 words of bullshit. I feel it's like what is this? What is this, dude? You have absolutely no you have no clue. No clue of what you're doing with any of this, do you? It's like, no. I have none. None. It's just like I feel like if I just keep doing it, I'll get it eventually. But no, but that's part of it. And then what's gonna be nice is that I need to find my next competition for this next month, and then when I find that, then I can start writing a story. I can just write a story that's focused more towards that, and it'll be much easier. It's like, what do I want to write about? The thing is, like, what do I want to write about? Really, that's really the thing. I don't know. It's just interesting. It's like, well, John, you're just not that good of a writer, so that's the main thing. Is like, just remember that you're just not that good at this. I just, it's so funny because like I submitted a story last week, like I told you guys, and on the 15th, and I'm like waiting. They're like, like you'll hear back from us like by next week sometime. When we figure out who we're going to choose. And every day, like every hour, I'm like I'm refreshing my emails, just like checking it, seeing like I'm like okay, I'm like oh nope, not yet, and but eventually, I don't know. It's gonna be it's just fun. It's a fun thing to do. You write, you tell stories, you do art, you do stuff, and you just kind of just like fuck it. But the next thing is a short film. Like, well, I've been making these like little short, like 1 minute, like little videos. I haven't been posting anything. I just been making for myself. The most weird. They're so fucking weird. Like just like me, like close up of tying a shoe, master shot tying the shoe. It's just weird things like that. Frying an egg. Having a dog like chew a bone. Just the weird things. Just weird, odd things like that. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's the best way to just learn to make things. Like just get down to the basics and get your hands dirty again. It's like basically just playing around in the dirt. That's how I look at it. I look around like making these like little 1 minute short things. It's just like me playing in the dirt. And yeah, I've done other things too, but it really does humble me when I go back to this ground. And it's like just going to the gym. I just look at it as like going to the gym. Like, like I'll just do, I have big gigs. I'll do that stuff and I'll do film and film that and film this. And that's cool, whatever. But it's always good to go back down to these like the itty bitty bits and pieces that make up filmmaking. And it's fun to do that. And then it's also when I write these stories, it helps with just like getting down to the basics of just telling a story. John, just write a story, 3 acts, middle, beginning, and what can you do? And that's what I can do with all my stories. Every time I think of a story, I'm like, okay, here's a story. How are you going to begin it? What's the middle part? And then what's the ending? And that's the thing. It's just like, okay. And I thought about those things for this new story, but it's like, but does it make sense? I am always like, does it make sense? Because I'm like, to me it makes sense, but does it make sense to anyone else? Does it just feel like there's a bunch of words just thrown at you? And that's how I feel like the last story was. Like, I'm a douche. Like, it was a good story, kind of angry, but I feel like it was just a bunch of words just thrown at you. There was no meaning, no reason. But what is a story? Isn't all like the same thing? Isn't all just words thrown at you? Just being like, do you like it? Huh? Do you like it? So, me, I'm just overthinking it, which is probably what I'm doing. I guarantee you that's what I'm doing. It's like, John, like, you used to never overthink this shit. And now you're like, not overthinking it, just like I think you're maturing in it, so I'm more worried about, instead of just being worried about making it and making sure it gets done, now I'm like, well, I want to make it, but I also want it to like maybe resonate with somebody. And I think that's just part of growing up. That's part of like maturing as an artist. I'm not an artist. I can't say that stuff until I get published or anything like that. So, even though I have IMDb's, so yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. It's just like having to just keep that mindset, and yeah, I feel like always how these podcasts end with like me like talking to myself, like talking myself off of the ledge of being an artist. But it's funny. That's the fun thing of it. That's the fun part of being this, is like dealing with this. Because when it all works out and I'm someplace else in years from now, I'm going to be looking back on this like this was really the best time of my life. And that's the thing. I have to keep that mindset, and that's what makes you more mature. I guess. I don't know. Sometimes I just think I need to stop smoking so much pot. Anyway, I have about like less than a minute left. If you got this far, God bless you. Thank you so much. I love you all. If you need anybody who watches these things, if you watch them, thanks. I'm just here talking, doing my thing, practicing on this, dribbling a basketball. Anyway, yeah, have a good week. Do something good. Be safe. Wash your hands. I guess the pandemic's over. I heard that Biden said the pandemic's over. I don't know. Who knows? We will never know. Try to do something to better yourself. Get a hobby. You will thank me. All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye.